Hello everyone. I am Assistant Professor Shraddha Kulkarni from Sarhat College of Art, Commerce and Science. So today we will learn exception handling in Python. So Python exception handling. Python provide two very important features to handle any unexpected error in your Python programs and to add debugging capitalize in them. Exception handling and next second one assertion. So what is mean by exception? What is exception? An exception is an event which occur during the execution of a program that disrupt the normal flow of the program's instructor. It means when a Python script encounter a situation that it cannot cope with, it raises an exception. An exception is a Python object that represent an error. When a Python script raises an exception, it must either handle the exception immediately, otherwise it would terminate and come out. Inside that, the exception handling is a process that provides a way to handle exception that occur at runtime. The exception handling is done by writing exception handler in the program. So for handling exception in Python, the exception handler block need to return which consists of set of statements that need to be executed according to raise exception. There are three blocks that are used in the exception handling process, namely as try, except and finally. So handling an exception, first one try block. So what is mean by try block? What is try block? Try block, it means it is a set of statement that may cause error during runtime are to be written in the try block. Next second block except. So what is mean by except? It is written to display the execution details to the user when certain exception occur in the program. Next 3 final block. Finally block, it means it is the last block written while writing an exception handler in the program, which indicate the set of statements that are used to clean up the resource used by the program. So here you can define your program by placing the code in a try block. After the try block, include an exception statement followed by a block of code which handle the program as possible. So following are the syntax of exception handling try. So try block, inside that we can write the operation. You do your operation here to certain operation here. Next exception, except exception, inside that we can write the execute code. There is exception, then execute this block. Next else, if there is no exception, then execute this block. So here are a few important points about the mentioned syntax. A single try statement can have multiple except statements. This is useful when the try block contain statement that may through different types of exception. You can also provide a generic except clause which handle any exception. After the except clause, you can include an else clause. The code in the else block execute if the code in the try block does not raise an exception. The else block is a good place for code that does not need the try block's protection. For example, so next method, the except clause with no exception. Except clause with no exception, it means if we define the except clause with no exceptions, it can handle all type of exceptions. However, another either it's a good coding practice nor it is recommended. Following are the syntax. You can also use the except statement with no exception defined as follows: try, again, we can perform the operation here, except, and else. So this kind of try except statement catches all the exceptions that occur. Using this kind of try except statement is not considered as a good programming practice because it catches all the exceptions but does not make the programmer identify the root cause of the program that may occur. Next, the except clause with multiple exception. So inside that, Python allows us to declare multiple exceptions using the same except statement. You can also use the same except statement to handle multiple exceptions as follow: try, except, inside that bracket exception 1, exception 2, and so on. If there is any exception from the given exception list, then execute this block, otherwise else block is executed. Next, standard exception. It means try finally clause. Try finally clause. So try finally clause, Python provide the optional final statement which is used with the try statement. It is executed no matter what exception occur and used to release the external resource. The finally block provide a guarantee of the execution. We can use the final block with the try block in which we can place the necessary code which must be executed before the try statement through an exception. It means you can use the final block along with a try block. The finally block is a place to put any code that must execute, whether the try block raise an exception or not. The syntax of the try final statement is this: try. Again, you can perform here operations. Due to any exception, this may be skipped, and directly we can always execute it final block. Note that you can provide the except clause or a final clause but not both. You cannot use else clause as as well along with a final clause. Reading and writing files. So here we can using two methods, read and write method. So first, write method write any string to an open file. It is important to note that Python string can have binary data and not just text. So syntax file object dot write, inside that bracket string. Next, argument of an exception. So an exception can have an argument which is a value that give additional information about the program, and following are the syntax. Try operation perform here inside that try block. Second, accept exception type argument. You can print value of argument here. If you are writing the code to handle a single exception, you can have a variable follow the name of the exception in the except statement. So this is the example for a single exception. Raising an exception. So you can raise exception in several ways by using the raise keyword. raise statement. The general syntax for the raise statement: syntax raise, inside that square bracket exception, again argument, track back. So here exception is the type of exception. For example, name error, and argument is a value for the exception argument. The argument is optional if not supplied. The execution argument is none. The final argument, traceback, is also optional and rarely used in practices, and if present is the traceback object used for the execution. So user defined exception, again this is the next type of exception in Python. User defined exception, Python also allows you to create your own exception by deriving classes from the standard built-in exceptions. Here is an example related to runtime error. Here a class is created that is subclass from runtime error. This is useful when you need to display more specific information when an exception is caught. In the try block, the user defined exception is raised and caught in the except block. The variable e is used to create an instance of the class network error. So here we can using the def keyword to declare the function init method. So once you define the above class, you can raise your exception as follows. Try. So following are the syntax: try, raise network error, inside that bracket exception, except network error, we can pass the argument e. So print e dot argue. So thank you.